Well, hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the AspieCast. And just as a reminder, the AspieCast is your daily dose of all things related to Asperger's syndrome. And by daily, I mean once every 10 months, approximately. And by all things related to Asperger's syndrome, I mean my experiences only, sort of. I'm trying to be funny. Anyways, yeah, this is a little bit kooky. I have been trying to crank out another episode and did so last August. And then at the end, a huge gang of dogs started barking after I had spent 40 minutes or something. So I just put that away until I had another free moment and had extra energy to go through all the thoughts. And then, let's see, in November, I did it again, or maybe it was October, but whatever it was right before the election. And uh, I never found the time to go and edit this stuff. Now, um, one person who emailed me, and I do thank everybody that's emailed, by the way, one person who emailed me mentioned that it does, or he does get the indication that it's a chore for me to do all this. And yes, it is actually. And the reason is a couple. Number one, I don't really think I should be thinking about all these shameful things. And even if I'm not trying to go over them as if they're shameful, I realize that it's not the same as trying to think about positive things. It's just kind of awkward. So I don't know if I feel good after doing this or not. And at the same time, I am dogged by shame constantly. Um, and I can explain that a little bit more sometime. Basically, there's somebody that in my proximity every day that has all the traits of an Aspie and does things that remind me to a T of things that I've done in the presence of other people that have caused those people to not want to be around me anymore. So it's just so reminiscent, and it's so painful to be reminded of these things on a daily basis um, that I get sometimes I get really sick to my stomach because I get so angry. And the anger comes from the hurt, and the hurt is from realizing what I've done and how it's affected me, and and it's sort of I don't know the return negative energy from having people pissed off at me. So I hate thinking about that. The other part of this being a chore is I say a lot, and I cough a lot, and snort a lot. Well, hopefully not too much, but I do have to go through and listen to the recordings that I make and then edit out those things. So, at a minimum, it takes twice as long as you might hear me talking to actually get something out there. And then there's usually mistakes that I realize I got to somehow deal with, figure out if I should just cut out a section or not. But anyway, yeah, it is a chore, and there's so much stuff I would love to be able to keep talking about and doing it. And if I could figure out a way to make it not a chore, um, I would love it. Um, anyways, if I could do this every week, I would just love it. Um, and there I go with the ums. Anyways, so some of the stuff that's been going on. Oh, let me start over here by saying that I didn't put together a outline of this particular episode, so I'm talking off the top of my head, and it may not work. So let's see here. But some of the stuff that's going on, I was really glad to find that I could get mental health benefits from the Affordable Care Act, which unfortunately had been labeled Obamacare by certain people, and they at the same time tried to equate the word Obama with something very negative, and they successfully, you know, got that in people's minds as a bad thing. But anyway, the reason I say that is because there may be some mental health benefit stuff going away with the new affordable health care crap that they're putting out or trying to put out. And I'm not sure yet. That's just a rumor, so please don't quote me. But yeah, so I was glad to get the mental health benefits, and I had someone helping me, or I still do, who was a psychiatrist and able to talk about and prescribe and change medication. And his thought was to try and reduce, dependency on medicine, which I think is a great thing. And so I was taking Paxil at 10 milligrams per day, and he said, "Why don't we try to get rid of that?" And I said, "That sounds great, because I know that Paxil originally did cause me to sleep too much, gain weight, just generally be sort of blah, which maybe that's better than being anxious and depressed and worried all the time. I'm not sure." Anyway, cut it down to like 7.5 and then 5 milligrams per day. Well, guess what? All of a sudden, and it took me 2 weeks to realize this, because the cut down per day, it's like 2 weeks at 7.5 and then 2 weeks at 5. Anyway, after 2 or 3 weeks of starting this, I started realizing that I was just having huge amounts more shame and just getting caught up in a lot of shame. And it's hard to describe what shame feels like. I had heard one time that it's a core emotion. I don't know if that's true. So if that's the case, then there's no way to say what it feels like other than to say it's shame. But just a real painful feeling that you just don't want to experience, or you don't want it to keep lasting. But the mind can go spinning further and further into more and more shame. And I think it's been labeled toxic shame, or there's definitions of shame that say it could be good, and then there's toxic shame, which can sort of be self-destructive. But I've just, when I think about all the stuff that I have done that alarms other people or causes other people to dislike me, and then I'm around any indication of that same thing or something that repeats that, then, and especially if it's a family member, repeating this behavior, and then I realize that's where I got the behavior from as a little kid, and then doing it to myself. Anyway, the whole shame thing is just really painful, and it's so real. I mean, I feel like, Jesus, I missed out on so much in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and teens probably also, just from making all these choices about interacting with people based on what I had originally thought was normal ways to interact. And then, seeing the reactions, not understanding the reactions, but now having a hell of a lot more retrospect, if that's the right way to say it, and saying, "Oh my God, now I see what it's like because I'm seeing it now." Okay, well, that's the thing. So I immediately, when I realized that being on this half dose of Paxil, paroxetine, when I realized that that might be connected to this brain spinning out of control every night with shame, I just jumped back up to the 10 milligrams immediately, and it seems to have solved it. So I'm still there. And at the same time, I'm still not a happy camper by any means, because I just hate being reminded of the stuff that I've done to other people, because that reminds me of why I'm not at the same point in my career that, say, other people might be, same age, same skill sets, and definitely not in the same point in my personal life where other people are, and, just in general, not able to have a close circle of friends. It's really awkward. I I guess I got kind of two stories to mention this episode. One being how I thought I had made a friend, and that had to do with a meetup group organizer who would get some discussions group going, talking about fairly important topics in, world topics, world news, or other topics more personal. Anyway, I had such a blast talking with this guy, you know, inside and outside the group meetings, and it was just wonderful. And then little snafu, misunderstanding, scheduling conflict happened because he needed me to help him with something, and I had scheduled some trip for work, and then he got extremely upset, and he wrote some emails that just tried to make me feel bad for, doing this horrible thing to him, which is not being available when I said I would. And it got really painful with all kinds of, things on his side that were going to be horrific for him to experience because I wasn't going to be available. And just basically a lot of emails shaming me or trying to make me feel bad about having made this mistake. And I did feel pretty bad, and I told him, but that didn't matter apparently. Anyways, that was awkward. So I haven't talked to that person for a month, and it was just sad because if there was one thing that I felt like I wanted to have happen after having so few friendships was, somebody around that I could just go meet and have good long conversations with about things that we both were into. In one case, online marketing stuff. So anyway, that was kind of interesting and sad and set me back because I thought, well, okay, I thought I had at least tried to make one friend in this small town that I'm staying in. And anyway, that fizzled out. So back to zero. I do have friends that I can talk to, but nobody I could just, go out and have coffee with or something like that. I mean, the people I know are in different states, different countries even. So it sucks. I don't like being lonely, and that's the other thing that goes along with all this is there's a lot of pain in terms of loneliness. I think there's pain, and I definitely hate talking about this, but the you know the ramifications of being alone and things sort of coming into your head and not leaving because you start realizing you're alone or wondering why you're alone, or in my case I know why I'm alone. It's because of all the horrible ways I've treated people without knowing I was treating them horribly. Anyway, it's just awkward, and I can't go and fix all that stuff. And I'm sure I've got a reputation, different in different circles. I'm sure I've got a reputation of being a total a-hole, and I never thought I was. So okay, so then, and other interesting thing is unfortunately, I found again that with drinking, the loneliness goes away almost immediately, and I can't afford to be drinking both in terms of money and in terms of the ability to do work because it just screws up my whole day or evening or whatever. Productivity goes down the tubes. And when you work for yourself, that's not a good situation whatsoever. So anyway, that's awkward. But man, when I'm about to have a drink or I'm in a place where I'm having a little bit of drink, because I wouldn't drink at home, there's no point. But end result is I get so happy because people want to talk to me and I'm able to just chime in and participate like there was never any trouble my whole life, that I'm totally normal, I'm an adult, I'm respectable, all that stuff. And it's just sad that right now can only be achieved by drinking, and it's just the fact that it can be on demand. When you feel lonely, you just go and do that. Makes it even more scary because it's just so readily accessible. I'm not sure where I'm headed with that, but I was able to successfully stop being addicted to wine more than a year ago, and I was really glad. Um, that was a really awkward thing that just was not good for a lot of reasons. But But now I'm finding that I still really wish I could just keep drinking and talking and being valued as a conversation partner, and then therefore feeling important and forgetting about all the bad vibes I've gotten from people over the years and people not wanting to talk to me anymore and all that. So, anywho, um, I'm not sure where this takes us. Oh, well, then the loneliness is another interesting thing. I probably mentioned on a previous episode that Streets of San Francisco had a episode where they sort of acknowledged that loneliness is a driving force behind alcoholism. And I never heard it put that way, but it's quite amazing to think about. So, where was I headed? Oh, the other thing is, I'm feeling like, okay, let me see if I can solve this loneliness thing, online dating. Okay, so that's a little awkward because there's various places you can try for that. So there's Craigslist, there's Match.com, there's OkCupid. What else? I guess there's a eHarmony. Anyway, they cost money, and so I haven't really done much at all with any of those. But for some reason, I just dabbled into it again. Maybe I got a junk mail advertisement reminding me about OkCupid or something. So, what did I do? I downloaded that maybe a month ago, and and they got me to pay the $20 per month because I didn't want to commit for longer than a month. And so anyway, it's just interesting. I've put up some. Well, I put up a profile, and I think I put up a picture, and I've got really nobody messaging me except, like, let's say somebody from Russia. Well, who knows what that's about? Probably a scam. But then I might see somebody interesting, so I send a message and I leave it as sort of a question at the end, hoping to get a reply. And I usually do get a reply, but there's no question or anything. When I get the reply, there's nothing that would indicate an interest in talking further, such as another question or something. So then I don't know if that means the person is hampered in their ability to encourage participation in a conversation, or they're just being polite and responding without expressing desire to continue. So I'm taking it as the latter, so I don't respond back. Now, so that keeps happening. And then another guy, let's see, and yes, you may have, folks that haven't heard my other episode, yeah, I am not in the, shall we say, heterosexual realm. Anyway, another guy had an amazing profile, and I think yesterday I sent him a message. And the thing is, he's not even in the nearby city, so I figured I was fine just saying, hey, you got an amazing profile, and I was basically trying to tell him he's not really my type physically, but just, yeah, I mean, everybody has their own, visual preferences and stuff like that. And I was not trying to tell him that directly. I just said, hey, I can't believe your profile is such a great, description of the kind of things that I like. And, I wish I wasn't, you know, impaired to the point where I prefer different types of guys. Anyways, basically the problem was he was white. Now, I apologize for that, but boy, that came back. He said something like, thanks for insulting me. You're blocked. So that was interesting because I had no real intention of anything other than basically saying, hey, I, I suffer from the same thing a lot of us suffer from, which is you find somebody that you think's really compatible, but maybe there's another, visual, physical, whatever aspect to it that sort of is a blocking factor. And that's, statistics, you gotta basically constantly meet lots of people before you get somebody who fits all the right clicks all the whatever it is, all the right check boxes that might make something possible. I mean, that's how I see it. And maybe I'm totally ridiculous and racist, but I'm a very light-skinned white person myself, and I just don't, and you know, I'm not attracted to people that look like myself. Let's put it that way. And so this guy was kind of similar. Anyway, he thought it was a terrible insult, gave me a nasty message and I was all excited when I got a message back from him, and then I saw this. So what does that tell me? It tells me that I have to be ultra cautious now, not only in my regular interactions with people when I'm sober, but also ultra cautious in whatever I write on something as simple as an online dating app, unless I want to be, made to feel bad, like this guy was trying to do. He was a little bit more verbose than I said, but it was all pretty nasty. So, end result, I don't know exactly what the hell you're supposed to do if you're lonely and you know you shouldn't be drinking and you know that the online dating stuff is not that easy, and also the online dating stuff doesn't give you any chance to come across with anything other than a photo and some writing skills, and I just don't think that's sufficient. So it kind of sucks. No idea where that all leads, but I guess I've been in a bad mood about being an Aspie now, probably for a year, partly because of this, acute awareness of being lonely and seeing how it has developed and how I've gotten to this point, and I don't know, just really down on the Aspie stuff. I was really glad to know about it 4 or 5 years back because it relieved me from a lot of the shame that I had from bad interactions, and it helped me understand where all that stuff came from. But now I'm looking at the practical end result effects, and just not a happy camper about it. And I hope I can get back to being a happy camper about it. Then I could probably do more of these types of episodes. But anyways, lots of good stuff. And I know there's lots of stuff that I could probably mention, and I should mention in another episode about all the great stuff I've gotten from people by email. Some situations that people I think are willing for me to discuss without naming them, of course. But, there's lots of good stuff I've received, and encouraging stuff too, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, anyway, that's about it for now. If you do have comments, always feel free to email me. Let's see, AspieCast@gmail.com. AspieCast@gmail.com. And like I always say, I will read everything, but I guarantee I'll read everything, but I can't guarantee I'll have time to respond to everything. Okay, well, thanks for listening. I'm going to just cut it off here, hoping that maybe by doing a little shorter one this time, it leaves me the energy to be able to do another one sooner. All right, thanks again.